Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cinema A to B. Today, Alec, we are discussing No Country for Old Men, the Best Picture winner from Ethan and Joel Coen. And I'm not going to hesitate to just have you kick this right off.
So I think this is the movie that got me to really enjoy and appreciate the Coen Brothers. Burn After Reading got me to understand their humor. This got me to understand their greatness and what they bring to the table as directors and writers and producers and all the other 64 different jobs they do on a set. But I remember watching this with you. I'm pretty sure we went to the theater for it. I don't think, and just kind of being astounded by how good it was, but yet how little it offers in the way of story. Like many things, not much changes from beginning to end in a lot of different ways. And I remember my first watch going out of it going, I have no idea what Tommy Lee Jones is meaning at the end of that. And I had to sit and really process what his speech at the end of this movie was until I kind of got it. And I think talking with you, just kind of working out, I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of brilliance in this. And now I've just rewatched it, I think for the third time. So I've only seen it 3 times. And I got to say, it holds up and I love it even more than I remember enjoying it my first couple times watching it. Cause I think I watched it with you. And then once we got on DVD, we watched it. So it's been, a decade and a half since I probably watched it. And it's just excellent. It's so good. I'm going to let you talk, believe me, but give me more.
No, that's fine. Keep going.
So I don't know what it is about certain directors. Michael Mann does this. The Coen brothers do this, where they don't show me much. They show me a lot of characters walking places or characters doing mundane stuff. Kind of is setting up a shot, but not really doing it. But they speak so much gravity. It gives me so much information about the character that it doesn't feel superfluous, where other directors do it. And I'm like, this is a waste of time. Like, why are we doing this? And I can't put my finger on why there's a difference, because I know so many other people who also think the same way as I do. I mean, you and I have had this conversation about Michael Mann doing this with his, in his movies, where he'll shoot a shot most people will cut, but yet it brings so much more to the character. And I still, to this day, I can't understand why it works in these and doesn't for other people.
I think the common thread typically with directors that can get away with holding on things longer or giving you setup details is that they are masters at building suspense.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say the quality that makes a director, that separates a good film director from the all-time greats, is the all-time greats are all, regardless of genre, masters of suspense. From Kubrick to Spielberg to Nolan to the Coens, they know how to weave and build suspense. And this thing just continually builds tension and then will release it a little bit as Chigurh encounters him and gets closer. And it's absolutely masterful level filmmaking. This is one of the few movies that I went into the theater with you, and as soon as that voiceover by Tommy Lee Jones kicks in with that shot of the planes, basically.
Yeah.
The sides of the theater melted away, and I forgot I was even watching a movie with you, and if Vlad was there, whoever else, and I didn't come out of it until the end credits hit.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how rare that is, but it does happen. This is my favorite of the Coen brothers pictures. It's not one I watch a ton. It is a heavy movie, but you're talking about greatness at every factor that you can measure a film by. And I do want to get into the kind of the healthy debate that everybody likes to have based on the Oscar year that this won, of whether this is the better movie against There Will Be Blood.
Oh, 100%. This is one of the years where I felt like the Academy actually got it right. Because I do think Daniel Day-Lewis deserved the Oscar for Best Actor. He is phenomenal. And There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson's film, There Will Be Blood, is great. But this is the better film. Hands down, I will, I don't fight anybody who's going to say that. But I will disagree with you politely that, that There Will Be Blood is a good movie, but this definitely takes it in a lot of different ways. And I think it brings about a super scary villain. It leaves you with great suspense. It still gives you characters with depth, even in the short amount of time. And the little dialogue that there's actually here, you kind of get in their minds a little bit. Just it's a full movie where There Will Be Blood still is kind of the same. I just don't think it does it as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So there's not really even going to be, sorry to disappoint everybody, there's not really going to be a debate on the podcast between these two. I just think they're very different movies. They're both done at a high level. I consider, There Will Be Blood a true character piece, a character study from start to finish. That doesn't mean it's less of a movie, but I don't prefer character studies to more traditional, like, narratives. I think There Will Be Blood's gotten more popular recently, but the main reason I do is because Anderson's still making movies and the Coens together aren't. And so it's like, it feels like recency bias of like, well, Anderson's still at it and he's one of the best in the business. And he is. And the Coens, are basically one of them's retired now. So I think that weighs into it, but this is as good as a movie can get, in my opinion. I just think, I almost think more time's going to have to pass for some folks to kind of give it its due. Like it still doesn't, it's 2007, which is kind of almost a long time ago, but.
And I think one of the things is never going to be mainstream love. Like, no, like it's not going to hit that. The ending is too non-ending.
It's philosophical.
Philosophical, up to interpretation in a lot of different ways. Like I know Laura watched this with me and she was like, I don't remember how this ends. And then after it ends, she goes, now I remember why I don't remember how it ends, because it freaking doesn't, And it's like, she wasn't happy. And she was like, this is why I don't like this film. Like it just feels like poof, it's gone kind of a thing. Whereas I resonate going, oh, I love how it ends. It reminds me a little bit of like that ending with the dialogue of, it ends how it opens. It's how like the world has changed, there's always evil in the world kind of a situation, and it's just our job to push the light forward, kind of what he's talking about with his dream with his father kind of a thing. Again, like you said, it's super philosophical, which a lot of the whole movie's about, of what these characters are doing, and they kind of try to talk about Anton and kind of what motivates him. And he's got this weird little set of philosophical rules. He's crazy.
I've never seen anything like him in another film. Not even Hannibal Lecter. And in fact, the psychology boards have basically said that Chigurh is the best depiction, most accurate depiction of a psychopath in all of cinema.
Really?
So not only is he terrifying and a force of nature, scientifically, he's the most accurate personification of a psychopath. And so a true psychopath. And he was mortifying from start to finish, but at the same time, you couldn't take your eyes off of him. I was so glad that he walked away with the best supporting, because it was like, well, yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see a performance like this again. Probably not in my lifetime, as far as a villain commanding. And it wasn't that you were rooting for him, but he was just basically like the shark from Jaws with a bad haircut. It was like you couldn't take your eyes off of him, and he moved the whole thing forward. And it was like he was just, these dull black eyes and just wading through Texas basically and destroying everything in his path.
No one could stop him.
Nobody could stop him. No. This thing kind of checks all the boxes for me, because even though the Coens are not action film directors, the handful of action sequences in this movie are crazy. The gun battles are really good. And then there's funny little quippy dialogue, especially with Tommy Lee Jones, and especially him reading the paper with his deputy. And the guy laughs at like a story that he's reading in the paper about somebody, I think it was about the couple that would killed somebody to collect their social security.
Yeah.
And and the deputy smirks, and then he looks the paper down and kind of glares at him, and then is like, oh, I laugh too myself. Only thing you can do.
The dry humor that just, okay. I laugh a little bit too about how Josh Brolin and Kelly MacDonald, their interplay or whatever, when he keeps talking to her, it's just their whole discussion, especially of I forget. I just watched this and I still forget it, but he's like, where you been? He goes, out. Like, just like one word answers, the very much like mind your business kind of a thing. You know, like, you should go to your mother's. Why would I do that? You know, like, just, it's a whole lot better if you watch it, listeners, than what I just did. Yeah. This was just terrible.
The acting is just pitch perfect everywhere you turn. Everybody's just at a high level. Nobody really jumps out at you except for Bardem, and it's just because of the character that's written for him. Yeah. The rest of them are all on pretty equal footing. Woody Harrelson's great.
For the short time he's in it. Like,
he's tremendous.
But he still pulls a great character out.
I love Beth Grant as Kelly's mother. I actually had a chance to color grade a short film that she was in that was really funny. She's super talented. But I love the lady I love the lady in the trailer park that actually stands up to him. I can't give no information. And
then she still lives. She still lives. Like,
I'm guessing, I don't know. It made no sense why he didn't offer, but he didn't.
Nope. And really, he deserved to be off. I mean, he was the idiot who went back. Had he not gone back, no one would have found him.
Nope.
Could have lived with his fake 2 million. So, because like the one that had the tracker in it had a bunch of ones in it, but if you actually go back into the scene, there's a bunch of 10s in with those 100s too.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, there's a couple fake bundles in there, buddy.
Interesting.
You should have counted it. So basically, Laura and I just realized that anytime that we come across basically drug money, the first thing you do is you dump it into another bag and you search every bundle, and then you don't drive back to the scene. So
that's the lesson you've learned after
from
all this
movie. Through all this,
not to avoid the whole situation.
Nope. Just don't drive back. Don't drive. The guy asking for water, let him die. You know what? He's going to die anyways. Your water's just going to prolong his life for a little bit longer. He'd be more pain.
Man, you're doing him a favor. That whole layout is just crazy.
Yeah.
When that scene he comes up on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that it's super interesting too, because again, there's almost no dialogue. No. And the only dialogue is a few sentences that he says to himself. And that's really it.
Yeah.
And but yet it's so interesting. It's so much again, that suspense of what is he going to see? What is he going to find?
Well, let's just admit right here that Deakins' cinematography looks like paintings when he's out there hunting deer. Like it looks like my dad's neighbor growing up was actually a pretty gifted painter and liked to paint a lot of Old West kind of sprawling vistas and stuff. And it reminded me a lot of that when I first saw the film. They just captured that Southwest color palette, browns and blues.
So, well, and on the flip side of that, much of the night work that he does feels like a Caravaggio painting, especially when they're in Del Rio or they're in El Paso, not El Paso, whatever maybe that is El Paso, whatever the city where he crosses over. Like, it just has that light and shadow done so well that, my goodness, it's just, Deakins just brings it home again of just making something that shouldn't look this good. Some of my favorite stuff is when he's being chased by the cartel after he's come back. And you could tell they shot that at a really specific time of day. And they shot this on film too, so you really can't make mistakes. Yep. So, goodness. It's a gorgeous movie. 2007, you wouldn't know it. I mean, it's a period piece. So that's the other thing with this is it's gonna continue to age well because it's set in is it 80? I think so, because it was talking about, they said something line about 58, and that was 22 years ago, so it's like 1980. And it's interesting, they only give you little hints of it. You kind of have to read between the lines a little bit, but in the book, it's fleshed out more. I've not read it, but I remember this part was a little easier to understand that Woody's character, Carson, had served in Vietnam with Chigurh. Oh. And that's how he knew he was freaking crazy. Interesting. Yeah. And I think they were basically special forces. And so in that environment, Chigurh was fine. Yeah. I mean, you're in the jungle, so you want him crazy on your side. And Brolin's character, Moss, was a vet as well. So all three of them are actually Vietnam vets, which in the context of the movie, really exited Vietnam only 5 years earlier. So, but that's not really pertinent, so they don't make it a big deal. But I think, Wells was actually a
fairly high rank. I think he was an officer of some sort. But yeah, he's the one. That's how he knows what Chigurh is.
I do have to say my favorite scene still is when Javier goes to the gas station and has that conversation with the gas station owner and is basically, he's like, you from Dallas? And he's like, why are you prying into my thing? He's like, no trouble. I'm going to close up now. He's like, when do you generally close up? Now. That's not a time. When do you normally, like, this whole long, I'm like, this is so awkward and
it's incredible.
And that's when he does the first time he goes, call it. And I love, I remember you and I used to say that all the time to each other.
Yeah.
You're just like, call it. I can't call it for you.
Yeah. Repeatedly. Well, I always love that shot in that scene where he's been eating that package of like peanuts and he puts that crumpled package on the table and it unfurls. And it's like, it's such a subtle shot, but it makes your brain instantly is like, that's what he's going to do to this guy.
Yeah.
He's just going to crumple him up and destroy him.
Yep.
Obviously he doesn't, surprisingly, but that exchange is hilarious. Like, it's your lucky quarter.
Yeah, it's your lucky. Don't put it in your pocket. Then it just becomes another change. But then I love at the end,
which
where
it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's just like, that's your lucky quarter, and you just think it's another piece of coin, but it is. It's such a weird character. Like, and I remember thinking, this is the first time I've seen this guy. I have no idea who it is, but yet it wasn't, because he had played the guy who talks about Black Peter in Stinking Collateral.
Yes.
Like 2 years earlier. And I remember
it's one of my favorite scenes in Collateral too.
Oh, and I forgot. I didn't, because he does such a different character. And then of course when he plays.
How angry do you think Santa Claus would be?
Oh my goodness. Oh.
If he lost the list.
Just steals the show.
He's a scene stealer.
Yeah.
And then Bardem's incredible, man, because then one of my wife's favorite films is Eat, Pray, Love, with him starring in it opposite Julia Roberts. And he's a completely different character. And he's like, you would never even think it's the same guy that's playing Anton Chigurh.
Well, even his villain in Skyfall is vastly
Silva.
different to Anton. So it's not even like when he still plays a bad guy, is it the same? So
he's one of the best actors on the planet, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Like, he's just, which is why he should have played Ferrari.
He should have. We're gonna die on that hill. He should have played Enzo Ferrari.
He should have. Oh my goodness, it would have been amazing.
Missed opportunity completely.
If I remember correctly, this is kind of one of the beginnings of Josh Brolin's rise back into films and stuff. Because I know he adjusted when Tarantino and Rodriguez did their kind of dual horror film stuff. He started
the Grindhouse stuff.
But I think this was like the next thing he did, and then he started to kind of build off of that, because Sicario was soon after.
Well, yeah, I mean, Sicario was a number of years later, but like I'm running down through here.
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men in 2007. He was super busy in 2007. He just did a bunch of stuff. He did a film called In the Valley of the Law. He was in American Gangster, not a big role. He played George Bush in W, which
that's right. Yeah.
Didn't do great, but like his performance wasn't like criticized at all for that. Yeah. Then he did a stinker, because then he did Jonah Hex, which he still talks about. But he was in True Grit. Oh, in True Grit. Yeah, he was good in True Grit. Men in Black 3.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it took some time, because I mean, Sicario wasn't until 2015.
Oh, wow. For some reason, I always think that's sooner.
It took a while.
So maybe this is not, this didn't have the jumping off power that I thought.
No, because everybody got upstaged by Bardem in this film. Unless you're paying attention to it, you won't realize how good everybody else's performance is. You have to like watch No Country and do a performance evaluation where you're kind of ignoring Bardem and paying closer attention, and you'll realize, Brolin's like running at the same level as MacDonald and as Tommy Lee. Yeah. They're all killing it, crushing it, but
Javier is just a step above everybody.
And Moss is just a really quiet character anyway. A smart character. I mean, he bests Bardem's guy as much as you could. He can't outrun the cartel, but
no. Well, yeah, because it wasn't even Bardem that did the deed. Yeah.
Which is the big shock that it's like, but you have to figure that Chigurh was going to get him eventually.
Yeah. Well, and also keep in mind, like, this is definitely one of those movies where you kind of have to pay attention, because I know even when you are paying attention, some things are easy to miss. I know, like Laura was talking about, didn't realize that it was Brolin's character that had died in the hotel.
Yeah.
In that scene. And like,
he's dead in the pool.
Yeah. No, he's not. He's dead in the hotel room.
Oh, yeah, he's in the hotel, right.
The girl offered him beers is in the pool.
He's dead in the pool, right.
Is in the pool. And then he's dead in the hotel room. But you don't really see his face. You have to tell kind of by his clothing of what he's wearing.
Now, the only scene that always confused me for the longest time was the scene where Tommy Lee's at the hotel after the crime scene's been cleaned up, and he hasn't entered the room yet.
Yeah.
And he can see the blown out hole from the cattle gun that Chigurh uses. And then you get an intercut with Chigurh behind the door.
Yeah.
And then he kicks it open and there's nobody in there. So it took me a while to realize that was only existing in Tommy Lee's mind's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of see him looking at like the reflection of the inner cylinder and kind of not really seeing anything, and then maybe him picturing what's on the other side of the door.
It took me. I was slow. Like I understood the ending speech, but that sequence, I was just like, at first, I was like, wait, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, did he just ninja fast and went out the window? No, he's still hiding in the tub. No.
with his really super bloody leg.
Yeah.
Oh, so I will have to say, this is just the requisite of Brolin's getting his character ready for Outer Range, which he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's very similar character.
A little bit of typecasting. Yeah.
A little bit of typecasting, but it works. I mean, yeah, you're right. Everyone's performances in here is excellent, and Javier is just a step above, but I
think it's because the character's written to be a step above. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm not giving Javier enough credit there for what he's bringing, but
yeah, we talked a little bit about this on The Big Lebowski, but I love kind of sometimes how the Coen brothers bring back certain aspects or those kind of things. Like when Tommy Lee's talking with Kelly MacDonald in the diner, and then he tells a story about the steer and his friend or whatever getting shot. But then he's just like, they don't even do that anymore. They just use the little thing that pops out of his brain. And you're just waiting for him to hit the light bulb of like, why did I remember that? Because, but it never happens.
No.
Right. And that's not a usual thing. Usually that is what it leads to, it leads to the, oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. Let's do this. And the Coens just let it lie there and never touch it again. And he's just thinks it's just a random stray thought that came into his head and doesn't connect the dots, which probably is what happins in real life a whole lot more than we think. So
yeah, he's been doing it a long time, and that's part of the narrative, right? He's been doing it so long that he really doesn't feel up to the task anymore. So I love the philosophical nature of the film, and it's the way it kind of analyzes where good and evil kind of exist and when they intersect. By and large, the message, depending on where you live, the message of it is fairly accurate. It's like most of the time you have to go looking for this to get caught up in it. Like, generally speaking, not 100% of the time, but generally speaking, you're never even going to come across this stuff unless you live in this world. But that one guy says, it's like, it's not all about you. And tells that great story. It's this guy's still alive, by the way, the older retired guy, Ellis, played by Barry Corbin, I love his performance. And yeah, he's just like, he tells that story about an earlier relative that got shot on his porch by Comanche, I think.
Yeah. And
just died right there. And it's like, stuff's always been around.
Yep. It's not new.
No, it's not. And it's like sort of counters the argument of like whether society's getting better or worse. And if you look at the data, like, it's not getting worse.
No, it just feels that way sometimes.
Yeah, it's the 24-hour news cycle is if it kind of makes it feel like that. But if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah, if you dive into, and the movie doesn't really explore that part of it, but I think it's a common view to feel like that that society's like getting awful. Because they have that funny exchange with that other current law enforcement guy, and he's just like, oh, they're not saying sir and ma'am anymore. So like it must mean horrible things are around the corner.
And green hair and a bone in her nose, all that stuff. Yeah. My goodness. Oh, the times they are changing. Yeah. Oh, overall, I really enjoy it. I think, where I place it in the Coen Brothers repertoire, it's definitely one of my top 3 favorites. So it's hard because it's so different from something like The Big Lebowski or Burn After Reading, where how do you hold this up? But kind of the things that Laura didn't like about it, I love how just open-ended it is and how it has a non-ending ending. This is life. This is how it goes on. And I love that. I love when things like that kind of happen. It almost gives me a little bit of reminiscent of like Usual Suspects kind of ending, where it ends kind of on that narrative of just the poof, where he's just like, and like poof, he was gone, and then it cuts to black, whereas you just kind of have this thing and then quick shot of Texas and then to go straight to black. And it just kind of like, it just ends. And I kind of really like that. I really enjoy that storytelling that they're doing.
That ending kind of took me by surprise the first time I saw it, but I understood it. And so it wasn't more than 5 minutes later, I was like, okay, I'm good with that ending. Yeah. It makes sense to me. I could see how people might be frustrated because, when the film ends, like Chigurh's not dead, right? He's not in the ground.
No.
But by virtue of the fact that he got in the car accident, there's a message there too of like eventually the universe is going to get him.
Yep.
Like even by his own rules,
he's gonna
die.
Yeah.
Whether it's at the hands of somebody else or if he gets hit by a truck or cancer or whatever it is, like his time will be up. But it doesn't matter because the way they shoot that scene and the way he's cared for himself earlier with the leg, he's not even human.
No.
He's like a wounded animal. Like he's just like a wounded wolf or deer or whatever. The aughts were, the 2000s were, that 2000 to 2010 is a good decade too.
A very good decade. Very good decade. So there's some movies we're going to get into.
For sure.
In regards to that. So, oh man. Last thoughts? No Country? Or did we cover it all basically?
We didn't cover it all, but for our purposes, the conversation will continue for folks, this is one of the better ones. Performance, cinematography, direction, the script, the book, the way it was adapted, the music, the score, it's all it's all tens across the board. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was one of the best pictures that I actually agreed with. But you haven't watched it in a while, give it a watch. But do it in an environment where you get everything quiet and turn the phone off and like give it its due. Like treat movies like this the way I think they should be treated, which is with your undivided attention. Mm-hmm. So
you'll miss too much.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's just too much going on. So, but yeah,
Coen Brothers are all about dialogue and kind of quick paced stuff that
But yeah, this is special. It's a special piece of cinema. So
yeah, it is. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate you all listening or watching, however you get it, from our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. These come out every Monday. So we hope to see you for next episode, which will come out on Monday. That's right. Shocking. You got it right. Shocking. I know it's crazy. So, but we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody.